I want to talk about some good news from New Jersey and how we can use it to help us strategize going forward when we think about how we use electoral politics to help undermine fascism and restore a stable democracy in the U.S. This piece is dated November 13th in the New Jersey Globe. It's by David Wildstein. Democrat Maureen Rowan has won her race for the state assembly in the 2nd Legislative District, ousting two-term Republican incumbent Claire Swift. Rowan unseated Swift by 842 votes. That's 39,444 to 38,601. This marks the 5th lower house pickup for Democrats. Every town in Atlantic County except 3 are now represented by a Democratic senator and or a Democratic assemblyperson. The work to get here has taken many years, and even in the last 2 election cycles where we were roundly defeated, we were still forging the path and building the team to set us up for this victory, said Atlantic County Democratic Chairman Michael Suleiman. It is incumbent upon us to build on these successes into 2026 and beyond, and that work begins now. I want to point to this victory here for a couple of reasons. First off is that too many people on the political left and the political center and political left continue to spout conspiracy theories about the 2024 election, believing that Starlink and Elon Musk somehow zapped the election results and ignoring all of the classic ways that Republicans suppress the vote and fix elections. They do it through gerrymandering. They do it through trying to make it as difficult as possible for people to get to the polls. They do it by kicking people off the voter rolls and making sure that there are onerous steps that people have to go through to be able to register to vote and then to be able to show up to vote. I don't know why we don't, I don't know why we don't have Election Day as a national holiday in this country. Here in Oregon, we have vote by mail. Donald Trump and the Republicans are consistently trying to undermine vote by mail. Why? Because it's fair, it's accurate, it's accessible. Voter turnout is higher when you have vote by mail. It's the same reason that Republicans want more voter ID laws. They want to make it harder for people to vote. Because when voter turnout is low, Republicans win. The more they can suppress the vote, the more they can disenfranchise Black and brown voters, blue voters in red states. Again, there is no such thing as a red state. There are gerrymandered purple states. There are gerrymandered blue states that end up going red because of tremendous voter suppression. It's not Starlink zapping the votes, y'all. And I think one of the big takeaways from the elections that we just had is that when turnout is really high, Democrats win. Unfortunately, the election in 2024 had lower voter turnout. Something like 15% of Joe Biden voters did not vote. So the first big takeaway from these elections is that high voter turnout is really important. It's important because it's our civic duty as American citizens, but it's also really important because when we show up and exercise our right to vote, we win. Not just in congressional races and gubernatorial races, but in smaller races all over the country. And that brings me to my second point. The New Jersey Democratic chairman is absolutely right. This is a long game, y'all. Republicans spent decades focusing on local electoral politics, getting Heritage Foundation loyalists instituted in school boards, city councils, town councils, election boards, auditors, county commissioners. They were focused and diligent, and they played the long game to lay the groundwork for what we are living right now. They spent decades patiently installing right-wing extremists, patiently working. If they lost an election here and there, they were not going to be swayed from their goal of flipping communities all over this country deep, far right, MAGA, white Christian nationalist red, so that they could institute more voter suppression, disenfranchise more folks who, especially Black and brown folks, especially folks who vote Democratic, right? And also they work to stack the courts in the same way, patiently over many years. We have to have the same kind of patience, right? They spent decades digging us into this hole. It's going to take us a long time to dig ourselves out of it. We have to be patient. I know I keep saying, I see too many people in my comments who advocate for some kind of violent overthrow, or they think that the midterms are just going to magically fix all of this. That's because establishment Democratic politicians fail to understand the fact that we are in the midst of an authoritarian takeover. They think this is like just normal electoral politics and, we'll all vote for establishment Democrats in the midterms and magically it'll just be back to normal. They are woefully inadequate and improperly assessing what is happening. And too many people have their head in the sand, falsely believing that there is some quick fix that will get us out of this. They also fail to understand the way that the far right in this country spent decades undermining democracy, infiltrating elected positions on every level in this country. So many of these MAGA politicians have worked their way up incrementally, getting elected on a local level where maybe there were hundreds of votes cast or just a couple of thousand, and it was much easier for them to get their toe in the door and then build that political career and institute far-right ideology and undermine democracy, like just all over the country. We have got to have the same kind of persistence, tenacity, and organizing to take back all of these positions. We have to take them back from the fascists on behalf of democracy and the American people. Electoralism on its own is not going to save us, but it is part of the plan. It is part of the portfolio of how we recover our country from a fascist takeover. And I know that's not so quick and easy. And I know it's frustrating to hear that this nightmare is not going to be over anytime soon and that we're going to have to do a lot of work, not just in like national races where it feels big and it feels sexy and it feels, like it's attention grabbing headlines. No, we need people running for elected office all over the country in these small positions. Run for your school board. At a time when PragerU materials are being used in schools around the country, at a time when Turning Point USA has decided to focus on building high school clubs in public schools around the country, at a time when teachers are being punished for teaching accurate history and describing factually what is happening in this country and the history of this country, like school board elections are really important. Likewise, your local election board. Every elected position in this country, MAGA, the far right, have sought to infiltrate and undermine for decades. The Heritage Foundation has been doing this for decades. And we need to get with the fucking program. We need to have a comprehensive strategy using elections, exercising our right to vote. We should not believe that electoralism will be the only thing that will save us, but we cannot abandon that as a necessary tool to help recover democracy. We need more good people to run for office. We need more people who are willing to work for, volunteer for campaigns, especially as we are watching the Republicans desperately try to rig the midterms. We need candidates that people can believe in so that we get massive voter turnout, because there is truth to the saying, too big to rig. When voter turnout is huge, it becomes nearly impossible for the Republicans to be able to succeed through gerrymandering and voter suppression. And we know from the Otpor movement in Serbia and from multiple other countries, autocrats typically try to claim that a valid election result is false. Donald Trump did this in 2020. This is not new, y'all. This is a tried and true tactic of autocrats. And when you have close margins, they will try and claim that it's rigged. So we have to have huge voter turnout, and we have to stand up and defend our elections. And we have to make sure that when the Republicans and Donald Trump try to delegitimize elections and throw away our vote, that we vigorously defend our constitutional right to vote and the result of our secure elections. And part of how we do that is we have candidates people can believe in. We are determined to take back our government on every level. We are determined to have massive voter turnout. This is a key component of a comprehensive strategy to defend ourselves from a fascist takeover. So I hope what happened in New Jersey with Maureen the other day is encouraging and inspiring. Look at Democrats winning on every level all over the country. And then understand we got to play the long game, not just for the midterms, but also beyond. We have the most power on a hyper-local level. We start to reclaim democracy right in our own communities. We start to reclaim democracy through local elections. We defend our right to vote on a local level, and we exercise that vote vigorously every election. We're voting in every election.